The widowed millionaire found the poor waitress protecting his triplets from the storm. And what he saw broke his heart. That night, the storm had teeth. Lightning tore across the sky over Oak Ridge Bistro like jagged scars, each flash illuminating the parking lot in bone-white bursts before plunging it back into darkness. Rain didn't just fall, it attacked, drumming against the restaurant's awning with the fury of 1,000 fists. Inside, the dinner crowd had thinned to a handful of regulars nursing after-dinner cocktails, their voices muffled by the weather's roar. Amanda Parker wiped down table 7 for the 3rd time. Her red uniform faded from too many washes, the fabric worn thin at the elbows. 24 years old, and already she felt ancient in ways that had nothing to do with age. She'd learned early that life didn't owe you gentleness. Her mother's death when she was 15 had taught her that. The years since had been a masterclass in survival, working double shifts, stretching every dollar, caring for her grandmother whose medication cost more each month than Amanda made in a week. She carried a serving tray to the kitchen, her sneakers squeaking against the polished floor. Through the window, she could see the storm intensifying. Wind bending the young trees along the street until they bowed like supplicants. The glass rattled in its frame. That's when she saw them, 3 boys. Maybe 9 years old, identical down to their dark eyes and matching navy jackets, stumbled under the awning. They were drenched hair plastered to their foreheads, clothes clinging to small frames that shook with cold. A driver struggled behind them with an umbrella that the wind had turned inside out. Its metal ribs exposed like broken bones. Amanda didn't think, she just moved. The tray clattered onto the counter as she bolted for the door, shoving it open against the wind's resistance. The cold hit her like a slap, rain immediately soaking through her thin uniform. But she was already wrapping her arms around the 3 boys, pulling them against her body, using herself as a human shield against the elements. "It's okay, sweethearts," she heard herself saying, her voice barely audible over the storm. "Breathe with me, in and out. You're safe now." One of them, the smallest, with tears mixing with rainwater on his cheeks, grabbed her hand and held on like she was the only solid thing in a tilting world. Another pressed his face against her shoulder. The third just stared up at her with wide, stunned eyes. Amanda pulled off her card, as threadbare as it was, and draped it over the boys' shoulders. Covering all 3 as best she could, the wind tried to rip it away, but she held firm, creating a small cocoon of warmth in the chaos. "Let's get you inside," she murmured, guiding them toward the door. That's when the restaurant entrance swung open with such force it banged against the wall. Benjamin Lewis stood in the doorway, and the world seemed to pause. He was the kind of man people whispered about, the widower who owned half the town and the other half of silence. Tall, maybe early 40s, with salt and pepper hair and eyes that held the weight of loss. Everyone knew his story. Brilliant businessman, devoted husband, father of triplets. And then, 6 months ago, his wife Elizabeth had died. Cancer, they said. Sudden, tragic. He'd been picking up a business dinner when the storm hit. Now he froze, watching his 3 sons, Ethan, Lucas, and Noah, sheltered by a stranger trembling in the rain. For a moment, something flickered across his face. Recognition, maybe, or memory. His late wife had calmed the boys the same way, through touch, through breathing, through steady eyes that promised safety. The echo of it hit him like a physical blow inside. "Please," Benjamin said, his voice rough. He held the door open wider. Amanda ushered the boys through, feeling the blessed warmth of the restaurant wrap around them. Water dripped from her hair, her uniform pooling on the expensive hardwood floor. She was suddenly acutely aware of how she must look soaked. Shivering, out of place, the boys clung to her anyway. She grabbed a stack of cloth napkins from the nearest table and knelt down, gently drying their faces, their hands. "Better?" she asked softly. The impulsive one, Ethan, she'd learned later, thrust a crumpled drawing at her. It was a boat in a storm, waves like mountains, and a crooked lighthouse trying to shine through the chaos. "That's beautiful," Amanda said, and meant it. The quiet one, Luke, asked, "Have you ever seen lightning up close?" Before Amanda could answer, the one who'd cried, Noah squeezed her hand tighter under the table. Out of sight from everyone else, she squeezed back. "Miss Parker." The voice cut through the moment like a blade through silk. Victoria Grant stood 10 feet away, arms crossed, her designer dress immaculate despite the weather. The restaurant manager was beautiful in the way ice sculptures are beautiful. Perfect, untouchable, her dark hair was pulled back so severely it looked painful. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "I appreciate your enthusiasm," Victoria said, loud enough for the remaining diners to hear. "But we have protocols about staff interacting with clients, especially about touching children without parental authorization." The room went quiet. Heads turned. Amanda felt heat crawl up her neck. She stood slowly, her wet uniform squeaking. The storm was just doing your job." Victoria's smile sharpened. "Which is serving tables, not playing savior." Something in Amanda's chest tightened. Her hand went to her pocket, fingers finding the small red glass pendant she always carried, her mother's last gift. The pendant that chimed softly when her heart raced when things were about to change. It chimed now. Benjamin Lewis cleared his throat. "My sons were in danger." "She helped, of course, Mr. Lewis." Victoria's tone shifted instantly, all honey and deference. "I'm simply ensuring our standards remain high. Liability concerns, you understand." Her eyes flicked to Amanda. "I'm sure our employee understands as well." The dismissal was clear. Amanda took a step back, her soaked sneakers squelching. "Thank you," Benjamin said to her, but his voice was distant, professional. The moment of connection, if there'd been one at all, had passed. "There was a security lapse. We'll be more careful." The words landed like stones. Amanda nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. She turned to leave, but Noah's voice stopped her. "Wait, your sweater. Keep it," Amanda managed. Forcing a smile. "Stay warm, okay?" She walked back to the kitchen on numb legs, feeling every eye in the dining room tracking her. Victoria's perfume lingered in the air, expensive and cloying, behind her. She heard Victoria's voice again, lower now, speaking to Benjamin. "I do apologize for the disruption. Some employees struggle with appropriate boundaries. We'll address it." Amanda pushed through the kitchen door and leaned against the wall, her whole body shaking from cold, from humiliation, from something else she couldn't name. The red pendant felt heavy against her palm. Outside, thunder rolled like a warning. Inside, the temperature had dropped in ways that had nothing to do with the weather. Amanda Parker didn't know it yet, but she'd just made an enemy who played for keeps. And in trying to shield 3 children from a storm, she'd stepped directly into the path of a much darker tempest, one that had been gathering since long before the first raindrop fell. The worst part, she'd do it all again, in a heartbeat. That's just who she was. The next morning arrived with cruel sunshine, the kind that makes yesterday's storm seem like a fever dream. Amanda showed up for her shift 15 minutes early, like always, her grandmother's words echoing in her head. "Be so good they can't ignore you." Turned out, being good wasn't the problem, right? Being noticed was. The schedule had been changed. Amanda stared at the staff board in the break room. Her name moved from the coveted lunch shift, decent tips, manageable crowd, to the dinner graveyard slot Friday and Saturday nights. The shifts were entitled businessmen got handsy after their 3rd scotch, where demanding couples sent food back 4 times just because they could, where tips were either insultingly small or non-existent. "Schedule adjustment, Carol," the senior waitress said quietly beside her. She wouldn't meet Amanda's eyes. "Victoria's orders. But I've had lunch shifts for 6 months. Things change." Carol grabbed her apron and left quickly, like proximity to Amanda might be contagious. Amanda's stomach dropped. She knew retaliation when she saw it. Had seen it happen to other girls who'd stepped out of line, who'd complained, who'd made Victoria look bad. She just never thought helping 3 scared kids would qualify. The pendant in her pocket felt cold. The shift started badly and got worse. She was assigned Section 4, the problem tables, the ones even veteran servers avoided. Her first customers sent back their appetizer 3 times. Her second table complained that she'd taken too long, even though she'd been at the bar waiting for their drinks, while the bartender deliberately ignored her. Her third table stiffed her entirely, leaving a note on the receipt: "Service needs improvement." By hour 3, her feet ached and her smile felt like it might crack her face in half. "Amanda. Table 9 needs refills." Victoria appeared beside her, clipboard in hand, looking immaculate in a cream silk blouse. "And you forgot to mention the special to table 6. That's the 3rd oversight today. I didn't forget." They said they weren't. "Are you arguing with me?" The kitchen staff had stopped working. Everyone was listening. Amanda swallowed. "No, ma'am. Good. Because employees who can't follow simple instructions don't last long here." Victoria's smile was razor thin. "We have standards to maintain." She walked away, heels clicking against the floor like a countdown. Amanda made it to the bathroom before the tears came. She locked herself in a stall and pressed her forehead against the cool metal door, breathing through her mouth so she wouldn't sob out loud. This job was all she had. Without it, She couldn't afford her grandmother's medication. Couldn't pay rent. Couldn't. The bathroom door opened. Footsteps. "I saw that," someone whispered Jenny, one of the newer servers. "What Victoria just did. It's not right." Amanda wiped her eyes quickly. "It's fine. It's not. Everyone knows you didn't do anything wrong with those kids. You were just being human." "Thanks," Amanda managed, but Ginny hesitated. "Just be careful, okay? Victoria doesn't let things go." The footsteps retreated. Amanda stared at her reflection in the scratched mirror. Her eyes were red-rimmed. Her uniform wrinkled. She looked exactly like what she was, someone barely hanging on. She splashed cold water on her face and went back to work. 3 days later, the envelope appeared. Victoria held her weekly management meeting in the glass-walled office that overlooked the dining room, a fishbowl designed to remind everyone she was watching. Amanda was clearing tables when she saw it, a manila envelope being passed across the desk to Mr. Hendricks, the restaurant owner. His face changed as he looked inside. Through the glass, Amanda watched Victoria lean forward, speaking intently. Hendricks frowned, shook his head, said something sharp. Victoria responded with what looked like concern, one hand pressed to her chest in a gesture of sincerity Amanda had seen her use with difficult customers. Whatever was in that envelope, it wasn't good. Amanda's hands trembled as she stacked plates. That night, Carol pulled her aside after closing. "There are photos," she whispered, eyes darting toward Victoria's office. "Of you, with the Lewis kids. Someone sent them to management." "What? When?" "After the storm. Side exit. You're walking out with the boys. Like you're leaving together. It looks..." Carol bit her lip. "It doesn't look good." "Honey," Amanda's mind raced, "but I haven't even seen them since that night." "I know. But the photos exist, and Victoria is telling anyone who'll listen that you've been trying to get close to Benjamin Lewis. That you saw an opportunity with a rich widower and vulnerable kids." The world tilted. "That's insane." "I was just helping. I believe you," Carol squeezed her arm. "But belief doesn't matter much around here. Victoria's got Hendricks' ear, and she's convincing. Just watch your back." Amanda barely slept that night. She kept replaying the storm, the way she'd acted on instinct. Pure and simple, how could anyone twist that into something ugly? But she knew how. She'd been poor long enough to understand that when you had nothing, people assumed the worst. Ambition, scheming, gold digging. The rich didn't help people out of kindness. They had ulterior motives, so obviously. The poor must too. The week ground on. Her schedule got worse. Double shifts on weekends. Split shifts during the week that made sleep impossible. Carol stopped making eye contact. Jenny avoided her entirely. Even Marco in the kitchen, who usually joked around, went quiet when she approached. Victoria was everywhere, watching, commenting, correcting. Every tiny mistake, a forgotten napkin, a slightly slow refill got documented, written up, added to Amanda's file. "You seem stressed," Victoria observed one evening, appearing at Amanda's elbow like a ghost. Distracted. "Is everything all right at home?" The fake concern was almost worse than the outright hostility. "Everything's fine," Amanda lied, "because if you're struggling, if this job is too much." Victoria let the sentence hang. "We'd understand if you needed to pursue other opportunities." Translation: quit, or we'll make you quit. Amanda's jaw tightened. "I'm not going anywhere." Victoria's smile was cold. "We'll see." That night, Amanda walked home in the dark, too exhausted to be afraid of the empty streets. Her apartment was a fourth-floor walk-up in a building that had seen better decades. The stairs creaked, the hallway smelled like old cooking grease and mildew. Her grandmother was asleep in the only bedroom. Her breathing labored even in rest. Amanda stood in the doorway watching her. This fragile woman who'd raised her after her mother died, who'd given everything so Amanda could have a chance. She couldn't let her down. In the kitchen, Amanda made instant ramen and ate standing up at the counter. The red glass pendant sat on the windowsill. Catching the streetlight, she picked it up, held it to the light. Her mother had given it to her 3 days before she died. For when things get hard, her mother had whispered, voice barely there, "To remind you that you come from strong women. We bend, baby girl. But we don't break." Amanda closed her fist around the pendant. Outside her window, the city hummed with life cars passing, people laughing, music drifting from open windows. Normal lives, normal problems. She pressed her forehead against the cool glass and let herself feel it all. The exhaustion, the fear, the unfairness of it all. Then she made herself a promise. She wouldn't break, whatever Victoria was planning, whatever game she was playing. Amanda would survive it. She'd survive worse, losing her mother, poverty, loneliness. She'd survive by being tougher than people expected, by refusing to disappear just because someone wanted her to. She didn't know yet that survival wouldn't be enough. She didn't know that Victoria's game had barely begun and the worst was still coming. But she'd find out soon enough. The noose was tightening, slow and deliberate. And Amanda Parker was running out of room to breathe. The wine went missing on a Tuesday. Amanda was folding napkins in the back when she heard Victoria's voice rise above the normal kitchen, clatter sharp. Outraged, designed to carry 2 bottles. Chateau Margaux 2015. Do you have any idea what those cost? Hendricks stood beside her, arms crossed, face grim. When were they last accounted for yesterday's inventory? They were here, now they're gone. Victoria's eyes scanned the staff gathered near the prep stations. Someone took them. Amanda's stomach tightened. She kept folding, trying to be invisible, but Victoria's gaze found her anyway. Lingered just a beat too long before moving on. We'll need to check the security footage, Hendricks said, of course, though the camera in the wine cellar has been temperamental lately. Victoria's tone suggested this was deeply unfortunate. I've submitted maintenance requests. But you know how slowly those get processed? How convenient, Amanda thought. The shift continued under a cloud of suspicion. Staff members eyed each other sideways, wondering who'd be stupid enough to steal from Oak Ridge. Those bottles were worth more than most of them made in a month. Amanda tried to focus on her tables, but her hands shook when she poured water. Something felt wrong, off, like the air before a thunderstorm. She made it through dinner service without incident, cleared her section, started the closing routine. Almost done, almost safe. That's when Victoria called her into the office. Sit, Victoria said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. Amanda sat through the glass walls. She could see the other servers cleaning up, studiously, not looking their way. I'm going to ask you a direct question. And I expect a direct answer. Victoria leaned forward. Did you take those bottles? No, you're sure? I've never even been in the wine cellar. I don't have access. Interesting. Victoria opened a drawer and pulled out a key card, because this was found in the pocket of your spare apron, the apron you keep in your locker. Amanda's blood went cold. That's not mine. It has your employee number on it. I don't know how it got there. I've never seen that card before in my life. Victoria studied her like a specimen under glass. You know what I think? I think you saw an opportunity. Rich clients, expensive inventory, a management team stretched thin. I think you got greedy. That's not— I would never, mister. Hendricks wants to call the police. Victoria's voice was almost gentle now. Sympathetic even. But I convinced him to give you a chance to come clean if you admit what you did. Return the bottles. We can handle this quietly. You'll be terminated. Obviously, but no criminal record. You can move on with your life. Amanda's throat closed up. I didn't take anything. Then you won't mind if we search your locker, your bag? No, search whatever you want. You won't find anything. But even as she said it, doubt crept in. If someone could plant a keycard in her apron. What else could they plant? Victoria stood. Let's go have a look then. The search happened in front of everyone. Victoria made sure of that. Amanda stood in the break room while Victoria and Hendricks went through her locker, pulling out her spare uniform, her street clothes, the granola bars she kept for when shifts ran long. Her dignity, piece by piece, laid bare for her co-workers to witness. Nothing here, Hendricks muttered. Check the bag, Victoria said. Hendricks unzipped Amanda's backpack, pulled out her wallet, her phone charger, a library book 3 weeks overdue, her grandmother's pill organizer that she'd meant to drop off that morning. Wait, Victoria reached past him into the bags in her pocket. She pulled out a wine glass, not just any glass, an Oak Ridge glass, distinctive with a restaurant's logo etched into the crystal, and it was stained, red wine dried at the bottom. A perfect thumbprint visible on the bowl. The room went silent. I've never seen that before, Amanda whispered. Someone put it there. Someone. Your fingerprints are all over it, Victoria said quietly. I'm sure they are. You carried this bag. You pack it every day. This is insane. Amanda's voice cracked. Why would I steal expensive wine and then keep the glass in my bag? That doesn't even make sense. Thieves panic, Hendricks said. He looked disappointed, like she'd personally let him down. They make mistakes. I'm not a thief, but she could see it on their faces. They'd already decided. The poor girl from the bad part of town, working at a fancy restaurant, surrounded by things she could never afford. Of course she'd take something. Of course she'd gotten greedy. People like her always did. Victoria's expression was perfect, regretful, almost sad. I really hoped I was wrong about you. Amanda, I truly did. You're lying. Amanda's voice shook with rage now, not fear. You put that glass there. You took those bottles. This is all because I helped those kids and you. Careful, Victoria interrupted. Her voice sharp as a slap. Paranoid accusations won't help your case. They'll only make you look more unstable. Hendricks cleared his throat. Miss Parker, I'm afraid we have no choice but to let you go. Effective immediately, we'll need your uniform and your employee badge if the bottles turn up. We may reconsider pressing charges. If they don't, he left the threat hanging. Amanda's knees nearly buckled. You can't. I need this job, my grandmother. You should have thought of that before you decided to steal from us. Victoria's mask slipped for just a second, and Amanda saw it, the satisfaction. Cold and sharp, collect your things. You have 5 minutes, Amanda changed in the bathroom. Her fingers numb as she pulled off the red uniform for the last time. She stared at herself in the mirror. Same face. Same person she'd been an hour ago. But everything was different now. Fired, accused. Branded a thief, she stuffed her street clothes into her backpack. The planted wine glass now sealed in an evidence bag by Hendricks. Through the door, she could hear whispers. The other staff already spreading the news. By tomorrow, everyone would know. The girl who tried to steal from Oak Ridge. The girl who got caught, no one would hire her now, not in this town. When she finally walked out, the break room had cleared. Cowards, all of them. Only Carol remained, standing by the time clock, eyes wet with tears. I'm sorry, Carol whispered. I'm so sorry. Amanda couldn't speak. She just nodded and kept walking. Victoria met her at the back exit, holding a cardboard box. Inside were Amanda's spare clothes, her granola bars, the library book. No letter of recommendation. No final paycheck. That would be held pending investigation. I truly hope you find help, Victoria said. And she almost sounded sincere. Whatever you're going through, whatever drove you to this, there are resources. Support groups for people with your kind of challenges. Amanda took the box, looked Victoria straight in the eye. You won't get away with this. Get away with what? Protecting my restaurant from theft, Victoria tilted her head. Go home, Amanda. Take care of your grandmother. And maybe think about the choices that led you here. The door closed behind her with a final, definitive click. Amanda stood in the alley behind Oak Ridge Bistro, holding a box of her life's pathetic remains. And finally let herself feel it. The humiliation. The terror. The crushing weight of knowing that tomorrow she'd have to tell her grandmother there was no job, no money, no plan. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the red glass pendant. Under the streetlight, it looked dull, lifeless. All its shine gone, just like her. She'd promised herself she wouldn't break. But standing there, in that alley, with nowhere to go and no one to fight for her, Amanda Parker came as close as she ever had. She slid down the brick wall and cried until her throat was raw, until she had no tears left, until the only thing she could taste was salt and defeat. The pendant lay cold in her palm. And somewhere inside Oak Ridge, Victoria Grant poured herself a glass of very expensive wine and smiled. Amanda spent 2 days in bed, not sleeping. She was too wired for that, too angry, too scared. Just lying there staring at the water-stained ceiling, listening to her grandmother's labored breathing in the next room. Watching dust motes drift through the weak sunlight filtering past the broken blinds. On the third day, her grandmother shuffled to the doorway. You planning to lie there forever? Or you planning to fight? Amanda turned her head. There's nothing to fight. I lost, you lost a battle. Her grandmother leaned heavily on her walker. Your mama didn't raise a quitter, and I sure as hell didn't finish the job just to watch you give up over some fancy restaurant. They think I'm a thief. Grandma, let them think what they want. Question is, what do you know? Amanda sat up slowly. I know I didn't do it. Then prove it. Her grandmother turned. Walker squeaking, and get me my pills while you're at it. We're both too broke for you to waste time feeling sorry for yourself. The words hit like cold water. Amanda got up. She started with what she had, which wasn't much. The memory of that night kept playing on a loop. Victoria's satisfied smile. The planted evidence, the two perfect setups. Someone had orchestrated this. Step by careful step. But why go through all that trouble just to get rid of one waitress? Unless it wasn't about getting rid of her. Unless it was about something else entirely. Amanda dug through the box of her belongings, pulling out everything they'd let her keep. The library book, the granola bars, her spare uniform, now useless in there, wedged in the bottom corner, something she'd forgotten about. The crumpled drawing Ethan had given her that stormy night. She smoothed it out on the kitchen table. A boat tossed on angry waves. 3 stick figures inside, and there on the shore a lighthouse tilted at an angle. Its beam cutting through the darkness behind the lighthouse. A building with 3 windows, each with carefully drawn curtains. Blue curtains. Amanda frowned. She'd been to the Lewis's house exactly once, months ago, when she'd delivered a catering order. She remembered it clearly because everything about that house screamed money. The circular driveway, the manicured lawn, the massive windows with gray curtains. Definitely gray. So why would Ethan draw blue? She turned the paper over, on the back, in a child's unsteady handwriting. Home safe? Amanda's pulse quickened. Maybe it wasn't their current home. Maybe it was somewhere else, somewhere Ethan associated with safety. She grabbed her phone and did what desperate people do. She Googled. Elizabeth Lewis, Oak Ridge, hundreds of results, obituaries, charity galas, society page photos. She scrolled through them all, looking for anything that might match the drawing. Then she found it, a newspaper article from 2 years ago. Local philanthropist Elizabeth Lewis opens new wing at County Hospital. The photo showed Elizabeth in front of the building, smiling despite her obvious illness. One hand raised in a wave behind her. Visible through the hospital windows, blue curtains. Amanda zoomed in on the image, her heart hammering. The hospital was on Lighthouse Street, right next to the old Maritime Museum with its distinctive tilted lighthouse logo. Ethan hadn't drawn their house. He'd drawn the hospital, the place where his mother had fought her last battle. But why would he give her that drawing? Why would a 9-year-old hand over something so personal to a stranger? Unless it wasn't random, unless some part of him knew. Amanda's thoughts scattered as her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her thumb the green button. Hello, silence, then breathing. Who is this? You need to stop asking questions. The voice was muffled. Disguise, drop it, leave town, forget about Oak Ridge. Who? The line went dead. Amanda stared at her phone. Ice spreading through her veins. Someone was watching. Someone knew she hadn't given up, which meant she was on to something the next morning. Amanda walked to the library. She'd sold her car last month to pay rent and spent 3 hours in the basement archives, pulling up old newspapers, searching for anything about Elizabeth Lewis's illness. Her treatment, her death, most of it was public record, breast cancer, stage 4. She'd fought for 18 months, experimental treatments, brief remission, then a rapid decline that shocked everyone who knew her. But tucked in the back of one article was a detail Amanda almost missed. Elizabeth had changed hospitals 3 months before she died, left County General and transferred to a private facility upstate. The reason given was seeking specialized care. Amanda wrote down the name of the facility. Then she searched for Elizabeth's obituary again, reading it more carefully this time. Elizabeth is survived by her loving husband Benjamin, her 3 sons, and her devoted friend Victoria Grant, who remained by her side throughout her illness. Devoted friend. Amanda's skin prickled. She searched Victoria Grant, Elizabeth Lewis, and found photos, lots of them. The 2 women at charity events, at restaurant openings, at gallery exhibitions. Always smiling, always close, best friends, according to every caption. Victoria had been there through it all, had access to everything. Amanda sat back, pieces clicking together in her mind. Still scattered, but starting to form a shape. She pulled out her phone and took photos of every article. Every mention, every image. Then she went to the Oak Ridge Municipal Building. I need to see business licenses, she told the clerk. For Oak Ridge Bistro, the clerk, a bored woman in her 50s, barely looked up. Public record, computer terminal 3. Amanda found what she was looking for in the financial filings. The restaurant had an account with an import company, Beacon Premium Imports, the same company Elizabeth had worked with for her charity auctions. The lighthouse logo on their letterhead was identical to the one in Ethan's drawing. Amanda's hand started shaking. She left the building and walked until she found a quiet park bench. Sat there trying to make sense of the fragments: a drawing, blue curtains, a hospital, an import company, a best friend who became a restaurant manager. None of it added up to proof. None of it would convince anyone of anything, but it was enough to make her keep looking. That evening, Amanda was taking out the trash when she saw it crumpled at the bottom of the dumpster behind her building. A receipt, laundry services. She almost walked past. But something made her look closer. The name on the receipt, E. Lewis, not Ethan, Elizabeth. Amanda fished it out. Hands trembling, the laundry service was on Maple Street. The date was from 6 months ago, 2 weeks before Elizabeth died. Why would Elizabeth's laundry receipt end up in Amanda's trash? Unless someone had been going through her things, watching her, following her. Amanda looked up at her apartment building, suddenly feeling exposed. The windows were dark, the street was empty, but someone had been here. She thought about the phone call, the warning, drop it, leave town, forget about Oak Ridge. Amanda folded the receipt carefully and put it in her pocket next to the pendant. She wasn't dropping anything. She went back inside, locked every lock on her door, and spread everything out on the kitchen table. The drawing, the articles, the photos, the receipt. And then she saw it in one of the photos from a charity gala. Elizabeth and Victoria standing together, both smiling but in the background. Barely visible, a sign for the venue, Lighthouse Gallery and Wine Import Warehouse. The same company, the same logo. Victoria had connections to the import business. She'd been Elizabeth's best friend. She'd had access to everything, the family, the house, the hospital, the treatment. And now she was methodically destroying anyone who got close to the Lewis family. Amanda's breath caught. This wasn't about her at all. This was about something much bigger. Something that had started long before a stormy night and 3 scared boys. This was about Elizabeth. And suddenly, Amanda knew with absolute certainty she had to find out what really happened to that woman. Because if Victoria was willing to destroy a waitress over nothing, what had she been willing to do to her so-called best friend? Amanda pulled out a notebook and started writing everything down. Every detail, every connection, every question. The pendant on the table caught the light, and for the first time in days, it seemed to glow outside. Night fell over the city, but inside that small apartment, something had shifted. Amanda Parker had stopped running. Now she was hunting. The text came at 10:47 p.m. on a Friday night. Amanda was half asleep on the couch, her notebook open on her chest, pen still in hand. She'd been making list questions without answers, connections that didn't quite connect. A web of suspicion that felt both solid and impossibly fragile. Her phone lit up, unknown number if you want the truth about Elizabeth. Go to the warehouse on Lighthouse Street, number 23, tonight, 11 p.m. Amanda sat bolt upright, sleep evaporating instantly. She stared at the message, reading it 3 times, 4, looking for some indication of who'd sent it. Nothing. Just those 2 sentences at a time that gave her exactly 13 minutes. This was insane. Obviously a trap. She'd be stupid to go. But what if it wasn't? What if someone else knew what Victoria had done? What if there were answers waiting? Real proof. Something that could actually... Her grandmother's voice came from the bedroom. You pacing out there, or are you gonna get some sleep? Just restless, Amanda called back. Go back to bed, Grandma. She heard the rustle of blankets, then silence. Amanda looked at the message again. Lighthouse Street, the same street as the hospital in Ethan's drawing, the same street where the laundry service was located. Everything kept circling back to that one location, 11 minutes now. She could call the police, tell them that she'd been fired for theft she didn't commit, and now she was getting anonymous messages about her former boss's dead friend. They'd laugh her out of the station, or worse, they'd call Victoria, who'd probably have her arrested for harassment. She could ignore it. Stay safe, stay smart, but safe and smart hadn't gotten her anywhere except unemployed and desperate. Amanda grabbed her jacket. The bus dropped her 3 blocks from Lighthouse Street at 10:58 p.m. The neighborhood was industrial warehouses and storage facilities, most of them dark at this hour. Street lights flickered intermittently, casting everything in unreliable shadows. Amanda walked fast, hands jammed in her pockets, one fist wrapped around the pepper spray she'd bought after the threatening phone call. The other hand clutched her phone, 911 ready to dial. Number 23 was set back from the street. A squat brick building with a faded sign, Beacon Premium Imports. The same company from the business licenses, the same lighthouse logo. The front gate was padlocked, but as Amanda approached, she noticed a side entrance, a regular door, slightly ajar. Her heart hammered against her ribs. This was the moment. Turn around and leave, or step through and find out what was waiting. Amanda thought about her grandmother sleeping peacefully, trusting that her granddaughter wasn't doing anything reckless. Thought about her mother, who'd taught her to be careful, to protect herself, to not take stupid risks. Then she thought about Victoria's smile when she'd handed over that box, the casual cruelty, the certainty that she'd gotten away with it. Amanda pushed the door open. Inside, the warehouse was massive, rows of metal shelving units stacked with wine crates, boxes labeled with foreign names and dates. The air smelled like cardboard and old wood. Overhead lights were off, but emergency exit signs provided a dim red glow. Hello, Amanda's voice barely carried. Silence. She moved deeper into the space. Weaving between the shelving units, her footsteps echoed. Every shadow looked like a person. Every sound made her jump. This was stupid. This was so incredibly. Then she saw it at the back of the warehouse. Behind a wall of wine crates stacked floor to ceiling, a metal filing cabinet, industrial, old school, the kind with actual locks. And it was open. Amanda approached slowly, every nerve screaming that this was wrong. This was a setup. Someone was watching, but she kept walking. The cabinet had 3 drawers. The top 2 were empty. The bottom one was full. Amanda pulled it open completely and knelt down, using her phone's flashlight to see file folders, neatly labeled Inventory 2023, Shipping Manifests, Tax Documents. And there at the very back, a folder that made her breath catch. E. Lewis, Personal. Her hands shook as she pulled it out. Inside were receipts, lots of them. Purchases made in Elizabeth's name. Wine orders, import fees, delivery schedules. All routed through Oak Ridge Bistro. All signed off by Victoria Grant. Amanda flipped through them, trying to understand. Why would Elizabeth be ordering wine through the restaurant? She wasn't part of the business unless she found a handwritten note clipped to one of the receipts. Elizabeth's handwriting shaky but legible. V. These numbers don't match what you told me. The charity auction received 40 cases, not 60. Where did the other 20 go? We need to talk. The date was 3 months before Elizabeth died. Amanda's pulse roared in her ears. She kept digging, found more notes, more discrepancies. Elizabeth had been tracking something, investigating Victoria, and then a letter, written on Elizabeth's personal stationery, dated 2 weeks before her death. Benjamin, if you're reading this, something has happened to me. I pray you never see these words, but I can't stay silent anymore. I suspect Victoria has been stealing from the charity auctions, diverting wine shipments. Pocketing the difference, I confronted her last week. She denied everything, but I saw fear in her eyes. Worse, my medication has been wrong lately. Pills that look right but don't work the same. I'm weaker than I should be. The doctors are confused. My oncologist said my levels are inconsistent. Like I'm not taking my medication properly. I am taking it properly. Victoria brings my pills every evening. Has for months. She's been so devoted, so caring. But now I wonder, I've hidden copies of the financial records at my lawyer's office. If anything happens to me, please investigate. Look at the import company. Look at the medication logs. Look at Victoria. I'm probably paranoid. The cancer is probably making me see threats where there aren't any. But I love you and the boys too much to stay quiet. If I'm wrong, burn this letter and forget I ever doubted her. If I'm right, please, for the sake of our sons, find the truth. I've loved you with everything I am, always. Elizabeth Amanda's hand shook so badly she almost dropped the letter. Victoria hadn't just stolen money. She'd killed Elizabeth slowly, deliberately, by tampering with her medication, making her sicker, weakening her until the cancer finished what Victoria had started. And no one had suspected a thing. The devoted best friend, staying by her side until the end. Amanda felt bile rise in her throat. She grabbed her phone and started taking pictures, the letter, the receipts, the notes, everything, flash after flash in the darkness. She was so focused, she almost didn't hear the footstep behind her. Almost Amanda spun around, pepper spray raised, but it was just the wind. Pushing the door she'd come through, it creaked on its hinges, then settled. She was alone, for now. Amanda stuffed the letter back in the folder, then hesitated. She couldn't leave this here. Victoria would destroy it the second she realized someone had found it. But if Amanda took it, that was theft, real theft this time. She pulled out her phone again and took more photos, high resolution, every page, every receipt, every handwritten note. Then she noticed something else in the drawer of small USB drive. Taped to the back of the hanging file, Amanda pried it loose and held it up to the light. Unmarked? Could be anything, could be nothing, could be everything. She pocketed it, then she put the folder back exactly as she'd found it, closed the drawer, and got the hell out of there. She didn't breathe properly until she was 3 blocks away, standing at the bus stop under a functioning streetlight. Surrounded by the ordinary sounds of traffic and distant music, Amanda pulled out the USB drive and stared at it. Someone had led her there. Someone who knew about the filing cabinet, about the evidence, about Elizabeth's suspicions. Someone who wanted the truth to come out, but who, the bus arrived. Amanda climbed on, found a seat in the back, and clutched her phone to her chest like a lifeline. The photos were backed up to the cloud. The The USB drive was in her pocket, evidence, real, tangible proof. Not enough to convince the police yet. She needed to see what was on the drive first, but enough to know she wasn't crazy. Enough to know Elizabeth had seen it coming, and enough to know that Victoria Grant was exactly as dangerous as Amanda had feared. Maybe more. As the bus rolled through the dark streets toward home, Amanda caught her reflection in the window. She looked different somehow, harder, more focused. The girl who'd protected 3 kids in a storm was gone. In her place was someone who'd walked into a warehouse at midnight chasing ghosts. Someone who'd found them, and someone who wasn't going to stop until everyone else saw them too. The red pendant in her pocket seemed to pulse with warmth. Amanda pressed her hand against it and made a silent promise to a woman she'd never met. "I'll make them see, Elizabeth, I swear to God, I'll make them all see." Outside, the city lights blurred past. Inside, Amanda Parker steeled herself for what came next, because she knew with absolute certainty that Victoria would realize soon that someone had been in that warehouse. And when she did, things were going to get much, much worse. Amanda didn't sleep that night. She sat at her kitchen table with her laptop, a battered thing she'd bought secondhand 3 years ago, and stared at the USB drive like it might explode. What if it was encrypted? What if it was password protected? What if it was empty? Just Victoria's way of luring her into the warehouse to catch her on camera, but the filing cabinet had been real. The letter had been real. Amanda plugged in the drive, her laptop Word. Recognizing the device, a folder appeared. EB_evidence_2024, Elizabeth's initials. Amanda's hand trembled as she double-clicked. Inside were video files, dozens of them, security camera footage, dated and time-stamped. Amanda opened the first one. The screen showed the interior of Oak Ridge Bistro, the wine cellar. Specifically black and white, grainy, but clear enough. The timestamp read 3:47 a.m. 6 months ago, a figure entered the frame. Slim, elegant, wearing gloves, Victoria. Amanda watched as Victoria methodically moved through the wine racks, selecting bottles, checking labels, replacing some with others from a bag she'd brought. She worked quickly, efficiently, like someone who'd done this 100 times. Then she pulled out a notebook and wrote something down. Even in the low-quality footage, Amanda could see her lips moving, counting. Calculating, the video ended. Amanda opened the next one. Same location, different date. Victoria, again. This time with a different man. Someone Amanda didn't recognize. They were loading cases of wine onto a dolly. The man said something. Victoria laughed, patted his shoulder, handed him what looked like cash. More theft, more evidence of the scheme Elizabeth had discovered. But it wasn't until the 7th video that Amanda found what made her blood run cold. Different camera, different location. This one showed a hospital room. Elizabeth was in the bed, asleep or unconscious, hooked up to Ives and monitors. The timestamp read 9:23 p.m., 3 months before her death. Victoria entered, carrying a small purse. She looked around, checking, Amanda realized, to make sure she was alone. Then she approached the bedside table where several pill bottles sat in a row. She picked up one bottle, opened it, poured the pills into her hand. Then she pulled an identical-looking bottle from her purse and swapped the contents. The whole thing took less than 30 seconds. Victoria disposed of the original pills in the medical waste bin, tucked the empty bottle back in her purse, and left. On the bed, Elizabeth slept on, unaware that her best friend had just poisoned her. Amanda's stomach heaved. She barely made it to the sink before she threw up when she could breathe again. Amanda rinsed her mouth and went back to the laptop. There were more videos, more pill swaps. Different dates, different times, always when Elizabeth was asleep or sedated. Victoria's face was calm throughout, almost serene, like she was doing something mundane, watering plants, sorting mail. Murdering her best friend, Amanda forced herself to watch every single one. The last video was different. It showed Victoria in what looked like a storage room at the hospital. She was on the phone, pacing. There was no audio, but Amanda could read her lips well enough to catch fragments. Almost over. Soon. Yes. Benjamin will need support. Of course I'll be there. She was planning it. Planning her move on Benjamin, even before Elizabeth was dead. Amanda sat back, dizzy with rage and horror. Elizabeth had known. She'd set up cameras, documented everything, created a trail, but she'd died before she could use it, before she could show anyone, before she could protect her family from the woman who'd smiled while killing her. The USB drive wasn't just evidence, it was Elizabeth's last testimony, and somehow, someone had made sure Amanda found it. The sun was rising when Amanda finally closed the laptop. She'd spent hours copying files, organizing them, making sure everything was backed up in 3 different places. The cloud, an external hard drive, a second USB drive she'd hide somewhere Victoria would never find. She couldn't go to the police, not yet. The videos were damning, but Amanda wasn't stupid. She'd been accused of theft. Fired in disgrace, Victoria would claim Amanda had fabricated everything, that a desperate woman had doctored footage to frame an innocent person. Amanda needed something more. She needed Benjamin. He was the only one who could make this stick, the grieving widower, the powerful businessman, the father of 3 boys who deserved to know their mother hadn't just died, she'd been murdered. But approaching Benjamin meant risk. He'd believed Victoria once already, had let her convince him that Amanda was dangerous. What if he didn't believe her now? What if Victoria got to him first? Amanda pulled out her phone and stared at it. She didn't have Benjamin's number, didn't have access to him at all. He lived in a different world, moved in different circles. But she knew where he'd be today. According to the society pages she'd been obsessively reading, Benjamin Lewis attended the same church every Sunday, 10 a.m. service at St. Michael's across town. He never missed it. Elizabeth had been deeply involved there, and after her death, he'd continued the tradition for the boys. Amanda checked the time. 6 hours until the service started. She had 6 hours to figure out how to approach a man who thought she was a thief and convince him that his dead wife's best friend was actually a murderer. No pressure, Amanda showered. Changed into the most respectable outfit she owned, black slacks and a white blouse from her waitressing days, and wrote a note for her grandmother explaining she'd be out for a few hours. Then she took the external hard drive and hid it inside the flour canister in the kitchen. The second USB drive went into the lining of her winter coat hanging in the hall closet. The original stayed in her pocket with the red pendant. If something happened to her, the evidence would survive, she hoped. At 9:30 a.m., Amanda caught the bus to St. Michael's. The church was in the wealthy part of town, all stone and stained glass. With a parking lot full of luxury cars, Amanda felt out of place immediately, but she squared her shoulders and walked up the steps like she belonged. The service was already underway when she slipped into a pew at the back. The church was packed full of money families, socialites, business people. Amanda scanned the crowd and found them in the 3rd row. Benjamin sat between Lucas and Noah. Ethan was on the far end, fidgeting with a program. All 4 wore dark suits. All 4 looked tired. Amanda's chest tightened. Those boys had no idea what was coming. No idea that everything they thought they knew about their mother's death was a lie. She almost left, almost convinced herself this was too much, too dangerous, that she should find another way. Then she saw Victoria. She was sitting directly behind Benjamin, one hand resting casually on the back of his pew. Close enough to lean forward and whisper, close enough to touch his shoulder, close enough to stake her claim. She was wearing a pearl necklace Amanda recognized from photos of Elizabeth. The rage that flooded through Amanda was white-hot and clarifying. Victoria had killed her best friend and was now wearing her jewelry. Sitting in her pew, positioning herself to take her place. Not just her place in Benjamin's life, her place as the boy's mother. Over my dead body, Amanda thought. The service ended. People filed out slowly, stopping to chat, to shake hands, to see and be seen. Amanda hung back, waiting, watching as Benjamin herded the boys toward a side exit. Victoria walked beside him, talking animatedly about something. Laughing, Amanda moved fast. She intercepted them in the parking lot. Stepping directly into Benjamin's path. "Mr. Lewis, I need to talk to you." Benjamin stopped short. Recognition flickered across his face, followed immediately by wariness. "Miss Parker, I know what you think of me," Amanda said quickly, aware of Victoria's eyes burning into her. "I know you believe I stole from the restaurant, but I didn't, and I can prove it. I can prove everything." "This is completely inappropriate," Victoria cut in, her voice sharp. "Benjamin, this woman was fired for theft. She's clearly unstable. I have evidence that Elizabeth was murdered," Amanda said, loud enough that several nearby churchgoers turned to stare. "Video evidence, documents, her own words. And I know who killed her." The parking lot went silent. Benjamin's face had gone white. "What did you say? Your wife didn't die from cancer?" Amanda's voice shook, but she kept going. "Someone tampered with her medication, made her sicker, weakened her until the cancer finished what they started." She locked eyes with Victoria. "And I can prove it." Victoria's mask slipped for just a second, pure hatred flashing across her face before the concern returned. Benjamin, please, she's clearly having some kind of breakdown. We should call. I have videos, Amanda interrupted, of Victoria switching Elizabeth's pills. Multiple times at the hospital. I have financial records showing she was stealing from the charity auctions. I have a letter Elizabeth wrote 2 weeks before she died, warning you about all of it. Benjamin swayed slightly. Lucas grabbed his hand. That's impossible, Victoria said. But her voice had lost its certainty. Elizabeth never. We were best friends. You wore her pearls to church, Amanda said quietly. The one she's wearing in her last birthday photo. The one she told the hospice nurse she wanted buried with her. Victoria's hand flew to her throat. Benjamin looked at the necklace, then at Victoria, then at Amanda. Show me, he said. Benjamin's study was exactly what Amanda expected. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, leather furniture, a massive desk that probably cost more than her yearly rent. What she didn't expect was how small she'd feel standing in it, clutching a USB drive that contained a dead woman's evidence. The boys had been sent upstairs with the housekeeper. Victoria had tried to follow Benjamin inside, but he'd stopped her at the door. Wait in the living room, he'd said. His voice flat. Benjamin, this is ridiculous. You can't possibly believe. Wait, in the living room. Victoria had gone, but not before shooting Amanda a look that promised violence. Now it was just the two of them. Benjamin sat behind his desk, looking 10 years older than he had in the church parking lot. Amanda stood on the other side, USB drive in her sweating palm. Before I show you this, she said quietly, you need to understand, it's bad, really bad. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Just show me. His voice cracked on the last word. Amanda plugged the drive into his laptop and pulled up the folder. These are security camera recordings. Your wife set them up. I think she knew what was happening, but died before she could show anyone. She opened the first video of Victoria in the wine cellar, stealing, switching bottles. Benjamin watched without expression. Amanda opened the second, the third. The financial theft built a clear pattern. Benjamin's jaw tightened, but he didn't speak. Then Amanda opened the hospital footage. The timestamp appeared. Elizabeth's room, Victoria entering with her purse. Benjamin leaned forward, every muscle tense. They watched in silence as Victoria pulled out the pill bottle, made the swap, disposed of the evidence. The whole thing took 30 seconds. 30 seconds to poison someone you'd called your best friend. No. Benjamin's whisper was barely audible. No, that's not. There are more, Amanda said gently. 6 more times over 3 months. Always the same. Always when Elizabeth was asleep. She let the videos play. Benjamin watched every single one, his face growing paler with each swap, each casual disposal of medication, each moment of betrayal. When the last video ended, Victoria on the phone, planning her future with a woman who wasn't dead yet, Benjamin stood abruptly and walked to the window. His shoulders shook. Amanda gave him space, staying silent while he processed what he'd just seen. She could hear the clock on the wall ticking, voices from somewhere upstairs. The boys, probably. Life continuing while the world collapsed. She was getting sicker, Benjamin finally said, his back still to Amanda. The doctors couldn't understand why. They'd adjust her treatment, she'd stabilize, then suddenly she'd decline again. They said it was the cancer, that it was aggressive, unpredictable. His voice broke. It wasn't the cancer. It was Victoria, the whole time. I'm so sorry, Amanda whispered. She trusted her. Benjamin turned, and Amanda saw tears streaming down his face. Elizabeth trusted her completely. Victoria was there every day, every single day, bringing her things, keeping her company, helping with the boys. He laughed bitterly. We thought she was a saint. Amanda pulled out her phone. There's more. Elizabeth left a letter. She showed him the photo she'd taken of Elizabeth's letter. Watched his face as he read his wife's handwriting, her warnings, her suspicions, her final plea for him to investigate if something happened. Benjamin's hand shook so badly he dropped the phone. Amanda caught it, set it gently on the desk. She knew, Benjamin said. She knew, and she tried to tell me, and he pressed his hands to his face. I was so focused on keeping her comfortable, on the treatments, on the boys, I wasn't listening. When Elizabeth mentioned something about the medication feeling wrong, I thought it was the disease talking. I told her not to worry. I told her to trust her doctors, to trust Victoria. You couldn't have known. I should have. His voice was raw with grief and rage. I'm her husband. I should have protected her. Instead, I let that woman. He couldn't finish. Amanda waited while he collected himself finally. Benjamin sat back down and pulled the laptop closer. Show me everything, all of it. They went through it systematically. The financial records showing Victoria diverting wine shipments meant for charity auctions, pocketing thousands over 2 years. The timeline showing exactly when Elizabeth had started investigating, when she'd confronted Victoria. When the medication tampering had begun, Elizabeth figured it out, Amanda explained. She found the discrepancies in the auction inventory. She confronted Victoria about a month before the first pill swap. That's when Victoria decided Elizabeth had to go. Slowly, Benjamin said, his voice hollow. She killed her slowly, made it look natural, and positioned herself to step into Elizabeth's life. Amanda pulled up photos from the society pages. Look at the timeline after Elizabeth died. Victoria started managing Oak Ridge full-time. Started being photographed at events where Elizabeth used to go. Started spending more time with you and the boys. Benjamin stared at the photos. Victoria at charity galas. Victoria at the country club. Victoria always close to him, to the boys, weaving herself into the fabric of their lives. She's been grooming us, he said slowly, getting the boys used to her, making herself indispensable. She was playing the long game and I got in the way, Amanda said, that night during the storm. When I helped the boys, you looked at me and you saw something. I don't know what, but Victoria saw it too. And she couldn't risk anyone else getting close to your family. Benjamin's eyes sharpened. The theft allegations, the planted evidence, all fabricated. I never took anything. She set me up to get me away from you and the boys. Amanda met his gaze. I'm not the first, am I? Other people who worked at Oak Ridge, who were kind to your sons, who might have noticed something off about Victoria, what happened to them. Benjamin's face darkened. There was a teacher at the boys' school. Ethan really bonded with her. Victoria mentioned something about the woman being inappropriate, asking too many questions about our family. The school let her go. He stood abruptly. Jesus Christ. How many people has she destroyed? Enough that she felt confident doing it again, Amanda said. Benjamin paced to the window again, then back. Why did you keep digging after she fired you? After she destroyed your reputation? Why didn't you just walk away? Amanda thought about that night in the alley, crying with a box of her belongings, thought about the drawing Ethan had given her. The blue curtains, the small hand that had held hers under the table. Because I knew I didn't do it, she said simply. And because nobody else was going to prove it, people like me, we don't get believed, we get blamed. I'm just the girl who serves food, who grew up poor, who's supposed to know her place. Her voice hardened, but I'm also the girl whose mother died fighting. And I'll be damned if I let someone like Victoria win just because she wears nice clothes and knows the right people. Benjamin studied her for a long moment. I misjudged you completely. You believed someone you trusted. That's not a crime. I let her poison my wife, and I thanked her for it. His voice was barely controlled. I watched her wear Elizabeth's jewelry, and I thought it was sweet. That Elizabeth would have wanted her to have something to remember her by. He slammed his hand on the desk. She killed my wife, and I invited her into my home. She's very good at what she does, Amanda said. That's what makes her dangerous. Benjamin nodded slowly, then he straightened. And Amanda saw the businessman emerge, the man who'd built an empire, who commanded boardrooms, who didn't lose. We need to call the police. Now wait, Amanda held up a hand. We need to be smart about this. Victoria has connections. She spent years building relationships with everyone who matters in this town. If we go to the police and she gets even a hint that we're coming, she'll destroy evidence, create alibis, twist the narrative. Then what do you suggest we confront her? Here, now, with the evidence, get her confession on record. Amanda pulled out her phone. I'll record everything once she knows we have the videos, the letter, everything. She either confess or she'll run. Either way, we'll have what we need. Benjamin's eyes were cold. Bring her in. Victoria entered the study with her usual poise. But Amanda caught the slight tension in her shoulders. The way her eyes immediately went to the laptop on Benjamin's desk. Benjamin, whatever this woman has told you, sit down. Victoria, Benjamin's voice could have frozen fire. Victoria hesitated, then sat, her hands folded in her lap, perfectly composed. But Amanda saw her thumb rubbing against her finger, a nervous tell. We've been watching some interesting videos, Benjamin said. Would you like to see? He turned the laptop around. Victoria's face remained smooth as she watched herself in the hospital room, switching Elizabeth's pills, but her knuckles went white. This is doctored, she said calmly, obviously fabricated. Benjamin, you can't possibly. There are 9 videos. Benjamin interrupted. 9 times you poisoned my wife. 9 times you smiled to her face while slowly killing her. That's absurd. Elizabeth was my best friend. I loved her. You wore her pearls to church. Benjamin's voice shook with rage. The pearls she wanted to be buried with. Did you take them before or after she died? Victoria's mask cracked. Just slightly. I don't have to listen to this. I don't have to sit here while some fired waitress. We have the financial records too, Amanda said quietly. Elizabeth's letter, her investigation into your theft. Everything. The room went silent. Victoria looked between them, calculating. Then she smiled. And it was the most chilling thing Amanda had ever seen. You can't prove any of this. The videos, Benjamin started, can be explained. I was helping Elizabeth with her medication. She was confused. Sometimes took pills twice, sometimes forgot. I was managing her treatment, making sure she got the right doses. Victoria's voice was perfectly reasonable. Any competent lawyer will tear this apart. Amanda hit record on her phone, then explained the financial theft. Benjamin said, accounting errors. Easy to fix. Explain wearing Elizabeth's pearls after she specifically said she gave them to me before she died. A gift between friends. Benjamin's face went red. You're lying. Prove it. Victoria stood. You can show these videos to whoever you want. You can tell whatever story you want. But you'll never prove I did anything wrong. And by the time you're done trying, I'll have sued both of you for defamation, harassment, and emotional distress. She walked to the door, stopped, turned back. You know what the real tragedy is, Benjamin? I actually cared about Elizabeth, but she got greedy. Started asking questions, threatening to expose business practices that were perfectly legitimate. She couldn't just accept her role. Victoria's smile turned sharp, so I helped her exit gracefully, and I've been helping you ever since. Whether you appreciate it or not, there it was, the confession. On tape, Victoria realized her mistake a second too late. Her eyes found Amanda's phone, saw the red recording light. Her face went blank. That won't hold up in court, she said, but her voice had lost its certainty. Maybe not, Benjamin said, but it's enough to start a real investigation. And when they exhume Elizabeth's body and find traces of the wrong medication in her system, when they match it to the pills you swapped, when they talk to the hospital staff about who had access to her room, you can't prove anything, Victoria repeated. But she'd backed against the door. Benjamin picked up his phone. We're about to find out. He dialed 911. Victoria ran. Victoria didn't get far. She made it to the foyer before Benjamin's head of security, a former cop named Marcus, who'd been with the family for 15 years, stepped into her path. He was a big man, 6'4" and solid, with the kind of presence that made people reconsider their choices. Going somewhere, Ms. Grant. Victoria's composure slipped completely. Get out of my way, mister. Lewis asked me to make sure everyone stayed put until the police arrived. Marcus's tone was pleasant, but his stance was immovable. Why don't you come back to the living room? Make yourself comfortable. You can't keep me here. This is kidnapping. I'll have your job. I'm not keeping you anywhere, Marcus said mildly. Just suggesting you wait for the authorities. Unless you've got a reason to run. Victoria's eyes darted toward the front door, then the side hallway, calculating escape routes. But Marcus had positioned himself perfectly, and through the window she could already see a police cruiser pulling into the circular driveway. Her shoulders sagged. Living room, Marcus repeated. Gesturing this time, Victoria went. The Oak Ridge Police Department sent 2 officers initially, Patterson and Chun, both young, both looking skeptical as Benjamin explained the situation. Amanda stood to the side, her phone with the recorded confession held close, watching everything unfold. Let me get this straight, Officer Patterson said, flipping through his notepad. You're saying Ms. Grant murdered your wife by tampering with her medication. Over the course of several months, that's exactly what I'm saying. Benjamin pulled up the hospital footage on his laptop. Watch. The officers watched. Their expressions shifted from skepticism to serious attention. This is from a hospital security camera, Chun asked. My wife set up her own cameras, Benjamin explained. She suspected something was wrong. She documented it, and you have financial records showing embezzlement. Everything's on the USB drive. Financial theft, timeline, Elizabeth's letter. All of it. Patterson and Chun exchanged glances. We're going to need to call this in, Patterson said. This is way above our pay grade, within 30 minutes. The house was full of people, detectives, crime scene technicians, a district attorney who looked simultaneously exhausted and energized by the case Benjamin was laying out. Victoria sat in the living room, flanked by Marcus and Officer Chun, saying nothing. She'd demanded a lawyer within 5 minutes of the police arriving. Now she just waited, her face a blank mask, while chaos swirled around her. But Amanda saw her hands. They were shaking. Detective Sarah Morrison took point on the investigation. She was 50-ish, gray-haired, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She'd spent 2 hours going through the evidence with Benjamin before she finally approached Amanda. Miss Parker, I understand you're the one who found most of this evidence, yes. Ma'am, walk me through it. Start with how you know the Lewis family. Amanda told her everything. The storm, the boys, Victoria's immediate hostility, the sabotage at work, the planted evidence, the firing, then the investigation, the drawing, the connections, the anonymous message that led her to the warehouse. Morrison listened without interrupting, taking notes. This anonymous message, she said when Amanda finished. You have no idea who sent it? None. I've thought about it constantly. Someone who knew about the evidence but couldn't come forward themselves, maybe someone afraid of Victoria or someone setting you up. Morrison said bluntly, you realize how this looks, right? Disgruntled former employee, fired for theft, suddenly producing evidence against her former boss. Defense attorneys dream about cases like this. Amanda's stomach dropped. I didn't fabricate anything. Those videos are real. Elizabeth's letter is real. I believe you, Morrison said, surprising her, but belief and proof are different things. We'll need to verify everything, the videos, the financial records, the timeline. We'll need to exhume Elizabeth Lewis's body and test for medication irregularities. We'll need hospital records, witness statements, the works. She looked at Amanda seriously. This is going to take time, and until we have ironclad evidence. Victoria Grant walks free. She killed someone, Amanda said, her voice rising. She murdered her best friend and tried to destroy me when I got in her way. And we're going to prove it, Morrison interrupted firmly. But we're going to do it right, so she can't wiggle out on a technicality. So the case is airtight, and a jury convicts her without hesitation. You understand? Amanda nodded reluctantly. Good. Morrison closed her notebook. Now, about this recording you made. Play it for me. Amanda pulled out her phone and played Victoria's confession. Morrison listened intently, her expression darkening. I actually cared about Elizabeth, but she got greedy. So I helped her exit gracefully when it finished. Morrison sat back. That's good, really good. Might not be admissible depending on state recording laws, but it's leverage. It shows consciousness of guilt. What happens now? Now we take Miss Grant in for questioning, see if she talks without her lawyer present. Doubtful. But worth a try. Meanwhile, we start the formal investigation, subpoena hospital records, interview staff, examine the financial trail. Morrison stood. This is going to be a long process. Miss Parker, you ready for that? I've been ready since the night she fired me. Morrison smiled slightly. I believe that too. They arrested Victoria at 6:47 p.m. Amanda watched from the window as they walked her out in handcuffs. Victoria kept her head high, her face composed. But Amanda saw the moment she glanced back at the house, at Benjamin standing in the doorway, at the boys watching from an upstairs window. Victoria's mask finally crumbled. She looked old suddenly. Tired, defeated, then she was, in the police car and gone. Amanda released a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. It was over, except it wasn't. Benjamin found her in the study an hour later, staring at Elizabeth's letter still displayed on the laptop screen. The boys are asking about you, he said quietly. Amanda turned, surprised. Me. Ethan wants to know if you're the nice lady from the storm. Lucas wants to know if you're okay. And Noah, Benjamin's voice softened. Noah asked if you were safe now. Amanda's throat tightened. What did you tell them? The truth, that you helped us, that you were very brave. He paused. I owe you an apology. Several. Actually, you don't. I do. Benjamin moved into the room. I believed Victoria when she said you were a threat. I believed her when she produced that evidence against you. I didn't question it because it was easier not to. Because you were, he struggled for words. Poor, Amanda supplied quietly. Disposable. Easy to dismiss, yes, he didn't shy away from it, and I'm deeply ashamed of that. You saved my sons from a storm, and I let someone punish you for it. You uncovered a murder, and I almost didn't listen because of who you are versus who she was. But you did listen, Amanda said. In the end, you listened. Barely soon enough. Benjamin sat in the chair across from her. Victoria's lawyer is already making noise about the evidence being fabricated, about you having motive to frame her, about the videos being doctored or misinterpreted. Detective Morrison said this would take time. It will. Months, probably, maybe longer. And during that time, Victoria will be out on bail unless we can convince a judge she's a flight risk. His jaw tightened. She might walk free for months while we build the case. Elizabeth waited too, she said softly, gesturing to the letter. She gathered evidence, documented everything, hoping someone would believe her eventually. We owe it to her to see this through. Benjamin looked at the letter, his wife's handwriting. I failed her. No, Amanda's voice was firm. Victoria failed her. You loved your wife, you trusted the wrong person. That's human. What matters is what you do now. What I do now is make sure that woman never hurts anyone again. Benjamin's voice was steel. I'm hiring the best lawyers in the state. I'm funding this investigation personally. I'm making sure every piece of evidence is analyzed, every witness is found, every angle is covered. Victoria Grant is going to prison for the rest of her life. Good, Amanda said simply. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Benjamin said, Oak Ridge Bistro called. They want to offer you your job back, with a formal apology and back pay for the time you were wrongfully terminated. Amanda laughed bitterly. They can keep it. I thought you might say that. Benjamin pulled an envelope from his pocket. So I have an alternative offer. My company needs someone to coordinate our charitable foundation. Elizabeth used to handle it, but after she got sick, fell apart. We need someone honest, someone detail-oriented, someone who knows how to investigate when things don't add up. He held out the envelope. The salary is $60,000 a year, plus benefits, including health insurance that would cover your grandmother's medications. Amanda stared at the envelope. Not taking it. Why? Because you're exactly the kind of person Elizabeth would have hired. Because you proved you can't be bought or scared off, and because my sons deserve to know people like you exist. He set the envelope on the desk. Think about it. No pressure, but the offer stands. Before Amanda could respond, there was a knock on the door. Ethan peeked in, Lucas and Noah behind him. Can we show her? Ethan asked Benjamin. Show me what? Amanda said. The boys came in, Ethan carrying a piece of paper. He handed it to Amanda solemnly. It was a new drawing, the same boat. But the storm was gone, the sea was calm. The lighthouse stood straight and tall, and standing on the shore, holding hands with 3 stick-figure boys, was a stick-figure woman with long hair. She was holding a red circle, the pendant. That's you, Ethan said. You made the storm stop. Amanda's vision blurred with tears. Oh, sweetie, are you going to stay? Noah asked quietly. Or are you going to leave like everyone else? Amanda looked at the drawing, at the boys, at Benjamin watching her with something like hope in his eyes. Then she picked up the envelope. I'm staying, she said. And for the first time in months, the red pendant in her pocket felt warm again. The legal battle took 4 months. 4 months of depositions, forensic analysis, expert testimonies, and media coverage that turned Benjamin's private tragedy into public spectacle. The exhumation of Elizabeth's body confirmed what Amanda had suspected: traces of incorrect medication in tissue samples, a chemical signature that didn't match her prescribed treatment. Victoria's lawyer fought viciously, called the evidence circumstantial, suggested Elizabeth had been confused, had taken the wrong pills herself, implied that Amanda had doctored the videos, that a desperate woman would do anything for money and attention. But Detective Morrison had been thorough. Hospital staff testified that Victoria had exclusive access to Elizabeth's room during the times shown in the videos. The import company's records showed systematic theft over 3 years. A digital forensics team confirmed the videos hadn't been altered. And then there was the confession, Amanda's recording. Played in court, Victoria's voice cold and clear. She got greedy, so I helped her exit gracefully. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. First-degree murder, embezzlement, evidence tampering. The sentencing hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Amanda sat in the courtroom gallery the day Victoria Grant's fate was decided. She'd attended every day of the trial, watching as the prosecution methodically dismantled the woman who'd tried to destroy her. Victoria looked different now. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by a plain prison jumpsuit. The perfect hair hung limp around her shoulders. The mask she'd worn for so long had shattered completely, leaving behind someone hollow and desperate. The judge, a stern woman named Harriet Chun, read the sentence without emotion. Victoria Grant, you have been found guilty of first-degree murder, grand larceny, and obstruction of justice. You betrayed the trust of a woman who considered you her closest friend. You poisoned her slowly, deliberately, while pretending to comfort her family. You stole from charities meant to help others, and when someone threatened to expose your crimes, you attempted to destroy her life as well. Victoria stared straight ahead, showing nothing. The court sentences you to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Additionally, you are ordered to pay restitution to the Lewis family and to Miss Amanda Parker for damages incurred. Judge Chun looked at Victoria over her glasses. You will spend the rest of your life behind bars. Ms. Grant, I hope you use that time to reflect on the irreparable harm you've caused. The gavel fell. Victoria was led away. Amanda watched her go and felt nothing, no triumph, no satisfaction. just a tired kind of relief that it was finally over. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Benjamin made a brief statement, thanking the prosecution team and the jury. He didn't mention Amanda, protecting her privacy as they had agreed, but as they walked to his car, he said quietly, "Elizabeth would have been proud of you." Amanda didn't trust herself to speak. She just nodded. Oak Ridge Bistro closed 2 weeks after the verdict. The scandal had been too much. Customers stopped coming. Staff quit in droves. Hendricks, the owner, sold the building at a loss and retired to Florida, muttering about lawsuits and bad publicity. Amanda felt no satisfaction in that either, but when Benjamin approached her with a proposal, something stirred in her chest that felt almost like hope. "The building's for sale," he said. They were in his office reviewing quarterly reports for the charitable foundation Amanda now managed. "I'm thinking of buying it. Why would you want that place?" "Because I want to turn it into something good, something Elizabeth would have loved." Benjamin pulled up architectural plans on his computer. A community culinary center, cooking classes for people who can't afford them, job training programs, a commercial kitchen that local food entrepreneurs can rent affordably, and upstairs, a food bank and meal service for families in need. Amanda studied the plans. "This would cost a fortune. I have a fortune. Might as well use it for something that matters." He looked at her. "I want to name it after Elizabeth, the Elizabeth Lewis Community Kitchen, and I want you to run it." "Me, Benjamin, I'm not qualified to. You're more qualified than anyone I know. You understand what it means to be hungry, to struggle, to work 3 jobs and still come up short. You know exactly who the center needs to serve." He pulled up more documents. "I've already secured funding, hired an architect, filed the nonprofit paperwork. All I need is someone who gives a damn to make it work." Amanda looked at the plans again, saw the commercial-grade kitchens, the classroom spaces, the food pantry, saw the possibility of something beautiful rising from something ugly. "When do we start?" she asked. The renovation took 6 months. Amanda threw herself into the work, coordinating contractors, ordering equipment, developing programs, hiring staff. She interviewed former Oak Ridge employees who'd been caught in Victoria's web of manipulation, offering them jobs in the new center if they wanted a fresh start. Carol was the first to accept. "I should have stood up for you," she said, tears in her eyes. "When Victoria was destroying you, I should have said something. You were afraid," Amanda said. "I understand that. Still, I was a coward. If you'll give me a chance to make it right, you're hired." "Welcome to the Elizabeth Lewis's Community Kitchen." Jenny came next. Then Marco from the old kitchen, who'd always been kind but silent. Then others. People who'd watched Victoria's reign of terror and done nothing because they needed their jobs, their paychecks, their stability. Amanda gave them all a second chance, because she knew better than anyone that sometimes survival meant silence, and sometimes redemption meant showing up and doing better. The boys visited often during the renovation. Ethan loved the big industrial mixers, insisted on learning how they worked. Lucas asked endless questions about food chemistry, nutrition, cooking techniques, and Noah, still the quietest of the 3, would sit with Amanda while she worked on grant applications, content just to be near her. "Why did Victoria hate our mom?" he asked one afternoon. Out of nowhere, Amanda set down her pen. They'd been in therapy, all 3 boys, processing what had happened. The questions still came at unexpected moments. "I don't think she hated your mom," Amanda said carefully. "I think she wanted what your mom had, your dad, you boys, the life your mom built. And when she couldn't have it the right way, she took it the wrong way." "That's stupid," Noah said. "Yeah, it really is. You wouldn't do that." Amanda looked at him. "Do what? Hurt someone to get what you want? You helped us in the storm even though you got in trouble. You helped Dad even though Victoria tried to make everyone think you were bad." Noah picked at the edge of her notebook. "You're good, like Mom was." Amanda's throat tightened. "Your mom was better than me, kiddo. Way better. Dad doesn't think so. He says you're a lot alike." Noah looked up at her with Elizabeth's dark eyes. "Can I call you Amanda? Or do I have to say Miss Parker?" "Amanda's perfect, okay." "Amanda," he tested the name, then smiled. It was the first real smile she'd seen from him in months. "Can we make cookies later?" "Ethan wants to learn." "Absolutely. Go grab your brothers." Noah ran off, and Amanda sat there thinking about a woman she'd never met but felt she knew intimately. Elizabeth, who'd documented her own murder because she knew no one would believe her otherwise. Elizabeth, who'd worried about charity auction discrepancies while dying. Elizabeth, who'd written that letter not with anger, but with love, wanting only to protect her family. Amanda sent a silent promise to the ghost in the walls. "I'll take care of them. I'll make sure they know how much you love them. I'll make sure this place honors your memory the right way." The red pendant, which now hung openly around her neck instead of hiding in her pocket, caught the afternoon light and glowed. Benjamin started showing up on Saturdays. At first, he said it was to check on the renovation, then to help with the planning, then just because the boys wanted to be there. But Amanda noticed the way he'd linger after the boys went home with the housekeeper, the way he'd ask her opinion on things that had nothing to do with the kitchen, the way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't paying attention. She noticed because she'd started doing the same thing. It was terrifying. "I'm not trying to replace her," Amanda said one evening. They were alone in what would become the main teaching kitchen, reviewing supply orders. "I could never." "I know," Benjamin interrupted gently. "And I'm not asking you to. Elizabeth was Elizabeth. Irreplaceable. But she's gone. And I'm still here. And my boys are still here. And we're all trying to figure out how to live in a world without her. I'm just the girl who helped during a storm. You're the woman who refused to give up when everyone told you to. Who fought for justice when it would have been easier to walk away. Who looks at my sons like they matter." Benjamin set down the clipboard he'd been holding. "You're not a replacement for Elizabeth. You're just you. And that's more than enough." Amanda didn't know what to say to that, so she said nothing. Just let the words settle between them like a promise neither was quite ready to make yet. But it was there. A possibility. A future. The Elizabeth Lewis's community kitchen opened on a Saturday in October, exactly 1 year after the trial verdict. The turnout was overwhelming. Local families, former Oak Ridge staff, city officials, representatives from charities Elizabeth had supported. And there, in the front row, 3 boys in matching button-down shirts, sitting next to their father. Amanda gave a speech she'd written and rewritten a dozen times. "This place exists because of a woman I never met but deeply admire. Elizabeth Lewis saw injustice and investigated it. She saw need and tried to fill it. She saw potential in people others overlooked. This kitchen honors that legacy. Here, we'll teach anyone who wants to learn. We'll feed anyone who's hungry. We'll give second chances to people who need them." She looked at Benjamin and the boys. Elizabeth believed in making the world better, one person at a time, so that's what we're going to do. Starting today, starting together, the applause was thunderous. And when Amanda cut the ribbon, officially opening the kitchen, she felt the pendant warm against her chest, like approval from somewhere beyond. Later, after the crowds had gone and the kitchen was quiet, Amanda found Benjamin standing in what used to be the Oak Ridge dining room, now transformed into a bright, welcoming classroom. "She would have loved this," he said softly. "I hope so. I know so." He turned to her. "Thank you for everything. For fighting when you had every reason to quit, for seeing this through, for," his voice caught, "for giving my boys back their faith in people. They did that themselves. They're tough kids. They learned it from you." Amanda started to protest, but Benjamin held up a hand. "Let me finish. I need to say this." He took a breath. "I don't know what comes next for us. I'm not ready for, I may never be ready for," he struggled, "but I know I want you in our lives. However that looks, friend, partner, family, I don't know yet, but you belong here with us." "I'm not going anywhere," Amanda promised, and she meant it, outside. The city moved on, cars passed, people lived their lives, the world kept turning. But inside the Elizabeth Lewis's community kitchen, something had begun. Not an ending, not yet, but the beginning of something new, something good, something worth fighting for. 2 years later, the Elizabeth Lewis community kitchen had become the heart of the neighborhood. Amanda arrived every morning at 6 a.m., unlocking the doors before the sun fully rose, breathing in the smell of industrial ovens and fresh possibility. The scholarship program she'd created was training its 3rd cohort of students. The food bank served 200 families a week, and the commercial kitchen had launched 17 small businesses, including a catering company run by Carol and a bakery operated by Marco. It was more than Amanda had dreamed, more than Elizabeth could have imagined. But it was the Saturdays that meant the most. Saturday mornings belonged to the boys. Ethan, now 11, had discovered a passion for pastry. He spent hours perfecting croissants, asking questions about lamination and butter content that would impress professional bakers. His drawings still covered the kitchen office walls, but now they featured elaborate cake designs instead of stormy seas. Lucas had become obsessed with the science of cooking sous vide temperatures, the Maillard reaction, emulsification techniques. He kept a detailed notebook and had started a cooking blog that had somehow gained 3,000 followers. At 11, he was already talking about culinary school, And Noah, still quieter than his brothers but no longer silent, had found his calling in the food bank. He loved organizing donations, packing boxes for families, making sure everyone got exactly what they needed. Like Mom used to do, he'd said once, and Amanda had to turn away to hide her tears. Benjamin came with them every Saturday without fail. He'd traded his business suits for jeans and Henley shirts, rolled up his sleeves, and learned to chop vegetables without cutting himself. He funded the kitchen generously, but worked there humbly. Just another volunteer trying to help. And somewhere along the way, between teaching Lucas about emulsions and helping Ethan master puff pastry, between packing food boxes with Noah and laughing at Benjamin's terrible knife skills, Amanda had fallen completely, irrevocably in love, not just with Benjamin, with all of them, with the family they were slowly, carefully becoming. "I need to tell you something," Benjamin said one Saturday afternoon. They were alone in the office, reviewing budget reports while the boys cleaned up in the kitchen. Through the glass wall, Amanda could see them arguing good-naturedly about the best way to organize the pantry. "That sounds ominous," Amanda said, trying to keep her tone light. Benjamin set down the papers he'd been holding. "I've been talking to my therapist about moving forward, about what Elizabeth would want. About us." Amanda's heart started hammering. "Okay, the boys asked me last week if you were going to be their mom." Benjamin's voice was careful, not replacing Elizabeth. They were very clear about that. "But like an addition, a second mom who's also you." Amanda couldn't breathe. "What did you tell them?" "I told them I didn't know. That it wasn't something I could decide alone. That you had a say in what your life looked like." Benjamin moved closer, but then Noah said something that stuck with me. He said, "Dad, she's already here every day. She already takes care of us. She already loves us. Why can't we just make it official?" "Benjamin, let me finish." He took her hands. "I'm not asking you to marry me, not yet. We're not there yet. But I am asking if you'd consider moving forward together, officially, as partners in the kitchen with the boys." In life, Amanda looked at their joined hands, thought about the girl she'd been 2 years ago, broke, desperate, accused of crimes she didn't commit, thought about the woman she'd become, stable, purposeful, surrounded by people who believed in her. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Me too. What if I mess it up? What if the boys end up resenting me? What if I can't live up to Elizabeth's memory?" "You won't mess it up," Benjamin said firmly. "The boys already love you, and Elizabeth's memory doesn't need you to live up to anything. It just needs you to be yourself." He squeezed her hands. "You saved my family, Amanda. Let us save you back." "You already did," she whispered. "The day you listened. The day you believed me when you had every reason not to. Then let's keep saving each other. Every day, for as long as we can." Amanda looked through the glass at the boys. Ethan had Lucas in a headlock. Noah was trying to separate them with a wooden spoon. It was chaos and noise and absolutely perfect. "Okay," she said. "Okay, yes, let's move forward. Together." Benjamin's smile could have lit the entire kitchen. Yeah. He kissed her then, soft and tentative and full of promise. Through the glass, the boys started cheering. Ethan made exaggerated kissing noises. Lucas pretended to gag. Noah just grinned like he'd won the lottery. When they finally pulled apart, Benjamin was laughing. So much for privacy with those three. Never happening. Guess we better get used to it. Guess so. They walked out of the office hand in hand. 6 months later, Amanda officially moved into the Lewis's house. Her grandmother came too. The house had more than enough room, and Benjamin had insisted. "Family takes care of family," he'd said simply. Amanda's grandmother had cried when she saw her new room, bright, spacious, with a bathroom designed for accessibility and a view of the garden. "Your mama would be so proud," she'd whispered to Amanda. "Look how far you've come, baby girl." Amanda had cried too. The boys helped her unpack, arguing over where her books should go, insisting she needed more space in the closet, making sure the red pendant had a special spot on her dresser where it caught the morning light. "This was Mom's room too," Lucas said, not sadly, but matter of fact. "She'd like that you're here. She'd like that Dad's not alone anymore." "How do you know?" Amanda asked gently. Lucas pointed to the drawing Ethan had made 2 years ago, the one with the calm sea and the woman holding hands with 3 boys. It was framed now, hanging on the wall. "Because Ethan drew it before we even really knew you. Mom used to say Ethan sees things before they happen. He drew you being part of our family when you were still just the nice lady from the storm." Lucas looked at her seriously. "Mom sent you to us, I'm sure of it." Amanda pulled him into a hug. "Then, I'm honored to be here." "Good. Because we're not letting you leave." The wedding happened on a Saturday because of course it did. Small, intimate, at the community kitchen, surrounded by the people who mattered. Amanda wore a simple white dress and the red pendant. Benjamin wore a dark suit and his late wife's wedding ring on a chain around his neck, carrying her with him, honoring her memory. The boys were best men. All three of them, wearing matching ties and struggling not to cry. Amanda's grandmother sat in the front row, beaming. Carol and Jenny and Marco were there. Detective Morrison came. Even Judge Chun showed up, smiling for once. The officiant asked the traditional questions. Do you, Amanda Parker, take Benjamin Lewis to be your lawfully wedded husband? I do. And do you, Benjamin Lewis, take Amanda Parker to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. They kissed while everyone cheered, and on the wall behind them, visible to everyone in attendance, hung a beautifully framed quote from Elizabeth's letter. When the storm comes, look for the one who covers you with their own coat. Life settled into a rhythm after that. Amanda ran the kitchen during the week. Benjamin managed his business remotely. Spending more time at home, the boys thrived. Good grades, good friends, good hearts. Amanda's grandmother had her medications covered, her health improving with better care. On Saturday mornings, they all cooked together. Amanda teaching, Benjamin learning, the boys experimenting with increasingly ambitious recipes. They'd blast music and argue about techniques and make enormous messes that everyone helped clean up. On Saturday evenings, they'd deliver meals to families who needed them, the boys taking turns carrying boxes to doors. Seeing firsthand what their mother's legacy had become, and on Saturday nights, after the boys were in bed, Amanda and Benjamin would sit in the garden with glasses of wine, never the expensive kind, always something simple, and talk about everything and nothing. Do you ever regret it? Benjamin asked one night. Everything you went through to get here. Amanda thought about the storm, the humiliation, the fear, the desperate search for truth when everyone said to give up. Not even a little bit, she said. It brought me here, to you, to them, to this life. I don't deserve you. Yes, you do. We all deserve each other. She leaned against his shoulder. We've fought for this, all of us, even Elizabeth, documenting everything, leaving clues for someone to find. This family was earned, not given. She'd like you so much, Benjamin said softly. I hope so. I talk to her sometimes. Tell her about the boys, about the kitchen, about how much I love the family she built. Amanda looked up at the stars. I like to think she's watching, making sure we're okay. I think she is too. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the crickets and the distant sound of traffic. Inside, the house was lit and warm. Safe. Theirs. Amanda touched the pendant at her throat. It was warm, like always, like a heartbeat, like a promise kept 5 years after the storm. Noah came downstairs on a Tuesday morning and found Amanda making breakfast. Morning, Mom, he said, casual as anything. Amanda froze. The boys had been calling her Amanda since the beginning. She'd never pushed for anything else, never wanted to replace Elizabeth in their hearts or their vocabulary. Noah grabbed juice from the fridge, completely unaware of the bomb he'd just dropped. Did you just... Amanda's voice cracked. Noah looked at her. Is that okay? I mean, you married Dad, you're here every day, and you take care of us. You love us. That's what moms do, right? Yes, Amanda whispered. That's what moms do. So, can I call you Mom, or do you want me to keep saying Amanda? Amanda set down the spatula and pulled him into a fierce hug. You can call me whatever feels right to you, sweetheart. Mom feels right, Noah said, hugging her back. Is that weird? No, baby. It's perfect. When Benjamin came downstairs 10 minutes later, Amanda was still crying. What happened? He asked, immediately concerned. Noah called me Mom. Benjamin's face softened. Yeah, he kissed her forehead. Told you. Family. The Elizabeth Lewis Community Kitchen celebrated its 10th anniversary on a crisp autumn Saturday. Hundreds of people came. Former students who'd built careers, families who'd been fed during hard times, business owners who'd started in their commercial kitchen, politicians, donors, friends. Amanda stood at the podium with Benjamin beside her and the boys, now teenagers, behind her, and looked out at the crowd. 10 years ago, this building was a place of cruelty disguised as elegance, a place where power was abused and people were disposable. Today, it's a place of hope, of second chances, of nourishment for both body and soul. She paused, gathering herself. I never met Elizabeth Lewis, but I know her through the legacy she left, through the boys she raised, through the values she held, through the evidence she gathered to protect her family even as she was dying. This kitchen exists because she refused to let injustice stand, because she documented the truth, because because she believed that good people, given the chance, will always choose to do good. Amanda looked at Benjamin. This kitchen also exists because one man listened when he didn't have to, because he chose truth over comfort, because he built something beautiful from something broken. Then she looked at the boys, Ethan, Lucas, and Noah, nearly as tall as their father now, good men becoming. And it continues to exist because 3 kids who lost their mother too soon chose to honor her by helping others. By cooking, by serving, by being the kind of people she raised them to be. Finally, she touched the pendant. I came to this place during a storm just trying to help. I had no idea it would change my life, that I'd find a family, a purpose, a home. Her voice strengthened. But that's what happens when you refuse to give up. When you fight for what's right. When you look for the people who cover you with their own coat during the storm and you cover them right back. The applause was deafening, and in the back of the room, in a photo that hung beside Elizabeth's quote, a woman with kind eyes seemed to smile, watching. Approving, at peace, 3 boys who'd been terrified in a storm were now men who made the world better. A widower who'd been drowning in grief had found a way to breathe again. And a girl who'd had nothing but a red glass pendant and her mother's voice saying, "We bend, but we don't break," had built a life beyond anything she'd ever imagined. The storm had passed, the harbor was safe, and they were home.